When the original Globe Theatre burnt down in 1613, the only casualty was a man whose pants caught on fire and they were appropriately put out with a bottle of ale. I'm not sure if this is the beginning of the term liar, liar, pants on fire, but it seemed appropriate. Which brings us to the next play, Liar. Now I have an admission to make. I wrote and directed this particular play. I'm not showing any favouritism. Excellent. In the early days of Melbourne and Victoria, a young man walks through the forest of what will become known as the Dandenongs. What he finds and hears there will make a fine story. Players Andrew Tomazos and written and directed by. So enjoy Liar.
Now, this is something that really happened to me. Way far off in our Antipodean colonies, in the heavily forested mountains to the east of the new colony of Melbourne in New South Wales. I had just arrived from England to take a stock of selection of land that had been granted to my family by the colonial administrators in Sydney. As the youngest scion of a large middle-class family, it fell to me to sojourn to this far side of the empire. I believe they called this place Monbulloch. I can't tell you how alien this landscape appeared to me. The tall white trees with the dark green foliage and the white trunks, where the strips of bark fell away, making them look almost hairy and most unkempt. And those ferns, it was as if I was in some prehistoric time, perhaps a caveman or a giant ape. One beloved of that Darwin chap might come to suddenly interrupt my solitude. In any case, following breaking my fast, I had gone for a constitutional near the encampment. That would be my home for the foreseeable future. Part of my family's agreement with colonial authorities was that I had to improve the land, put fences up, clear trees and such. You see, many of my friends had immigrated to America, but I and my family felt that the newer colonies in New South Wales and Van Diemen's Land showed some promise. And the added blessing of no Americans and their abominable accent. And in a family with many sons, what did my father have to lose? Except a ne'er-do-well younger son. Perhaps my fortune could be made in this rough land. I must say, the landscape around did not inspire me much. That cacophonous racket was only part of its alien quality. Those large white parrots and the laughing jackass I had heard tell of their like back in London. I believe it is finding my predicament the most amusing. No tweet-tweet of robins or the gentle lilt of songbirds here. No illusion of an English glade was to be had. However, mayhap, I was in error to judge this primeval Sylvania so harshly. This place could almost be some sort of cathedral. And the trunks, the buttresses and columns, the roof there spreading foliage, the gossamer of the sun through the dew-dipped spider webs, its stained glass. Yes, the cathedral. Ancient, vast, unknowable. What am I doing here? so far away from kith and kin. How I long to hear the voice of another man. Even one of those noble savages that infest this land would break my desperate solitude. So I had heard a cry for help. But how? Who could it be? I was many miles from the nearest settlement, and much of this land had not felt the tread of white civilization before. I listened carefully as the echoes of the cry diminished to nothing. The forest itself seemed too tense and held its breath. I cupped my hands around my mouth and cried out, "I say there, are you all right?" There was no immediate response. I was shaken. This voice had a strange, otherworldly timbre and was extremely loud. The vaulting canopy had caused the cry to echo for some time. It was very difficult to determine its provenance. All of a sudden, as if the floodgates had opened, it began to cry again and again. Help! 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 The words were now very close together and extremely loud, and echoed to such a degree they began to merge together in dissonant babble. Was it some shade or phantasm that had come to haunt me in this faraway alien Eden? I had begun to regret I had ever left England's green and pleasant land. I could now sense a general direction of the cry, and given the obvious urgency of the situation, I ran towards what I thought of as the source, the location of this unfortunate traveller. Now you, my enthralled audience, may think me foolhardy for venturing towards such an unknowable and possibly deadly fate. But we are Englishmen and made of stern stuff. I resolved to push on like Dampier or Cook in New Holland or Drake against the Spaniards. I strode towards what would undoubtedly be my doom. I stumbled and pushed through thick undergrowth and suddenly put my foot through a very large hole. Had I had my full weight upon it, no doubt it would have shattered like the mast of a great sailing vessel. And I would not be speaking to you today. I later discovered that these holes are the burrow of something called a wombat, whose depredations are notorious for breaking the legs of horses, cattle, and men alike. As it was, I was fortunate and had but a sprain, and could still walk upon it. Oh, so loud now, and coming from above my head, I looked up and... Now, my friends, the following is true, as the very hallowed ground of Britain we now walk upon. They say that travel broadens the mind, and my mind is as wide in beam as a man o' war as a result of my experiences. I was confronted with a very beautiful bird, with a long feathery tail splayed out like a peacock. I could hardly imagine that such a cacophony could come from this delicate-seeming avian, but no sooner had I espied it that its delicate beak opened up and it cried out, "Help!" Once more. I was shocked, and not just in a little state of befuddlement or bewilderment, that I toppled backwards and landed into some low ferns and rotting leaves. I put my arm out to level myself upright once more and turned my head straight into the Stygian depths of a human skull. Now it was my turn to scream, and I don't mind admitting that various supernatural fancies flitted through my own rattled noggin as I stood upright once more and regained some poise and a modicum of decorum. I was looking down at the last resting place of an earlier traveller. His bones were scattered somewhat by scavengers, but some semblance of his previous form remained: a bag a waterskin, a battered, weather-beaten hat, such as convicts on a ticket of leave are wont to equip themselves. I noted that his tibia was broken, and not by the scavengers. I believe this poor unfortunate had encountered the wombat hole, but in his case his leg had shattered, like my own peace of mind. He had lain here dying, far away from any succor, crying out for help that would never come. Only his voice remained. The bird was some sort of mimic that had recorded his last cries, as if in a waxen cylinder and played by one of those new-fashioned gramophones. Using what tools I had at hand, I gave the poor wretch as Christian as burial as I could, and turned back in the direction of the camp. Occasionally, I still hear that cry, but not as regularly, as if the mimic had found some other sounds more to its liking. Occasionally, I hear a man whistling, "Rule Britannia." It's very difficult to determine its provenance. Perhaps it is more to its liking than the last desperate cries of a dying man in this far corner of the British Dominion. I trust I have not left another poor wretch out there to die a lonely death due to the crying of the wolf by this grand liar of a bird. Pray, pour more of that excellent Madeira. Enough of my prattling. I'll hear your no doubt grandiloquent stories now.